Today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp.com, and I've been with them for a long time. BetterHelp is an online platform where we found that you can effectively communicate with your therapist. Now, you begin by filling out a questionnaire, and then you'll be matched with a therapist within a couple of days. And if that match isn't ideal for you, you can certainly make an adjustment there. Now, you're going to be encouraged to journal, and also they have the availability for group therapy on a wide array of topics, and I really like that. So as the need exists, go ahead and take the necessary steps to get the help that you need. And just know that BetterHelp has a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, so it indeed is a platform you can trust. There's a link below the video that will take you there. It's pretty obvious that anyone who has a strong inclination toward narcissism can be a very difficult person to deal with. I mean, when you start with the presumption that says, I really need to be the one in control, and selfishly, I want to go ahead and push my agenda, and I don't really care about yours. They have no empathy. They have to be superior. They're willing to exploit and manipulate. All of that says, I'm not into healthiness. I'm into domination over you. Now, you've heard me say before that narcissism is a pattern on a spectrum. And there are some individuals who can be pretty strongly narcissistic, but at least it's not as overwhelming as it could be. But then you have people who are all the way down to the far end of that spectrum that we refer to as the malignant narcissist. The malignant narcissist takes the core ingredients, if you will, of narcissism, and they just add to it. And by that I mean when we say that narcissists want to have dominant or control, the malignant narcissist must have total dominance. They have an extra measure of meanness that they bring to the equation. They like being known as impenetrable. When you say to them, I can't get through to you, they take that as a compliment. They're cold-hearted. They just truly do not care about what kind of impact they have on you. In fact, if anything, if they have a negative impact on you and you collapse, they think, well, good. I've proven that I'm a somebody, and you're over there in that rubble heap over there proving that you're just the nobody that I always knew that you were anyway. They have no willingness to compromise. They won't negotiate. Insults and condescension are just routine. Now, when you think about what a narcissist is hoping for, we can say that one of the things they want is they don't want relationships. They just simply want arrangements with you, and basically, if anybody's going to be on their team, they're required to become a sycophant. And when I say that, I mean a flunky, somebody that just defers to them and implies, okay, whatever you say, boss, I guess that's what I'm going to have to do. And they can be very blatant with that. Now, sometimes the malignant narcissist can be so overt that they leave no question whatsoever as to their intentions. Other times they can be kind of covert. And by that, I mean they can sometimes give the cover of decency, but then behind the scenes, it's a whole different story. I mean, I know a man who actually has done some nice things for charity, and you'd think, well, wow, what a nice person. And yet, even as it's done, there's kind of a now you owe me to the people that run the charity. And he's known in many other relationships as being the consummate bully, and he's harsh and mean-spirited. And it's kind of strange to think, well, you would do something nice over here. Why are you so mean and caustic over there where people are just trembling when you walk by? And you see that even goodness is a cover for whatever else is going on inside. Now, all of that said, we can zero in on three different things that malignant narcissist requires of you. And I mean, when I say they require it, it's like you will be this way or else it's going to be bad news for you. If you're in their presence, if you have an ongoing engagement with them, they have some specificity toward you. Now, let me run through them. The first thing that we can say that narcissists or malignant narcissists require of you is complete surrender. Now, this is more than just normal submission, if you will. I mean, the narcissist wants you to submit to them, but the malignant narcissist thinks, As far as I'm concerned, you're just a little more than a toad. I'll step on you if you get in my way or if you don't do anything right. They have to have your total deference. They have to have your complete subordination. Being a team member, as far as they're concerned, is a one-way street. You're on my team. I will never be on your team. And so they look for people who will defer to them and more or less let them have whatever way that they want to have with you. A second requirement that the malignant narcissist will have of you, and that is they don't want you to have any original ideas. As far as they're concerned, they know everything they need to know. Now, you'll notice that they don't have much wisdom, but wisdom is not what they seek. They seek correctness. And they have to be the one that has the final word, and you're supposed to be a yes person. Whenever they say, here's the way things are supposed to be, then if you come along and say, well, I think differently, it's like, well, then shut up. Let me explain to you why my way is better. And to them, there is no legitimate discussion. Any distinction that you have is a nuisance to them. Your independent thinking is not allowed. In fact, if you have too much independent thinking, then they just automatically assume you're rejecting them. And boy, that doesn't really bode well. They have no curiosity beyond their own point of view. And as far as they're concerned, you cannot have whatever distinctions you may want to have. You just have to be a clone or somebody that just goes along with whatever their rule book says. Now, when you don't go along with this, the fact that you're supposed to have complete surrender and the fact that you can't have any original ideas, that leads to number 3. And that is they're going to rage. And they're going to have lots of anger. The malignant narcissist is known for just having just a little spark from you is going to set them off. And so there's just a constant undertow of irritability and agitation. And so the third requirement that they have of you is you have to take responsibility for their anger. It's just a guarantee. It's a given. They will become angry. And they're going to let you know under no uncertain terms how despicable you are and how miserable you're making their life. And what they'll do is they'll say, well, you know what? None of this anger would be happening were it not for you. And so when you protest about them being so agitated and impossible, they'll say, well, why don't you just get your act together and then we won't have to worry about this now, will we? And so they don't even dismiss the fact that they have anger. It's like, yeah, I've got anger issues. Look at you. Look how miserable you are. Now, the covert, they may not admit it because they can be into a whole lot of passive aggressive stuff, but nonetheless, they continue to blame you. It is your fault. You have to get your act together. Now, when you are engaging with this kind of individual, it becomes very clear that the malignant narcissism is steeped in deep, deep pessimism. They've concluded that soft traits they're not just a waste of time and energy. They're a true sign of weakness. Kindness and empathy and tenderness, despite that guy that does work for charity, it's not done for all the good, the right reasons. The tender side of life is for sissies, it's for idiots, it's for losers, and it's like, no, I don't do stuff like that. To them, no one can be trusted. To the point where they have a really strong sense of paranoia. And that being the case, whoever does come towards them with their own distinctions and uniqueness, their extra ideas or thoughts or preferences are a little more than rubbish. Now, obviously, when you're engaging with someone like this, you're going to find that I can't get through to them. It just creates all sorts of strain and difficulty. And what's worse is these individuals make themselves out to be the victim. Go figure. I mean, they bring havoc to wherever they go. And yet whenever they're dissatisfied, it's never their fault. Look how you're making my life miserable. You can't deal with someone like this. That's how they think. And when we say that some individuals are beyond redemption, this category of the malignant narcissist is exactly what we're talking about. So as you are able to spot this and see it for what it is, there are some adjustments upstairs that you're going to need to maintain so that you can then move on your merry way towards something very different. And the first thing is go ahead and drop any illusion that you're going to be able to get through to that person. Like I say, narcissism is a pattern on a spectrum, and maybe if somebody's down, let's say I'm going to use this is a non-professional, so to speak, but if they're at the 50% level of narcissism, and maybe you can reason with them at least for a little bit. But let's keep in mind the malignant narcissism is all the way up at the 95% level. They're so completely filled with it that whatever pleas or whatever requests that you have of them are just going to be guaranteed dismissed. Any debate that you have, you will lose. But then at the same time, I'm hoping you can realize that being the case, if they're that closed off and they take pleasure in being impenetrable, then there's no need for me to try to justify or rationalize why it's okay for me to be me, because it's not going to be heard. And by all means, when you're with that malignant narcissist, do not reveal your personal issues because they'll take anything that seems vulnerable and they will pounce all over it and make your life even more miserable. Now, it's pretty astonishing, really, when you think that somebody would go through life with this harsh and mean and grossly insensitive pattern of life, and they can think, yeah, I can justify all of that. I'm thinking, really? But these are individuals who are who have no conception of love. They have no conception of mutuality or regard for one another. So keep that in mind. If possible, get away from them. Or if you do have to be in their presence, make certain that you maintain very strong boundaries. And when I say boundaries, know what you will and will not do in that person's presence, and as best as you can, stand up for who you are in self-preservation. Let's conclude by saying when you're dealing with a malignant narcissism, you're dealing with a very broken person who tries to pretend like they've got it all together, but they're a little more than just that, pretenders. And that being the case, I'm hoping you can stand in your own dignity, respect, and civility, and in doing so, that person is not going to completely rob you of your quality of life. Now, I hope that videos like this can give you some awareness of what you might be dealing with. If you've got something like this going on in your life, my heart goes out to you, seriously. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do so. We're going to keep more videos coming towards you. Now, you know that I've been sponsored for years by the people at BetterHelp.com. They're an online resource for online therapy, and we found out during the pandemic that online therapy can be very effective and accessible. So as the need is there, if you're dealing with something like that, go beneath the video here and check out their link and get the help that would be warranted. Now, in addition, I would invite you to go to my website and check out all the many resources we have. Like, we have a lot. For example, we have my mainstay is my courses. Each course has at least 25. Here you go. I don't know if you can hear Gus. He's kind of whining here. They have at least 25 teaching videos with handouts and questions on boundaries, on anger, on healthy connections, and finding yourself. We also have my webinars, which are 90-minute PowerPoint presentations, along with my articles and my books. So plenty of resources. If you're in the presence of a malignant narcissist, you're in the presence of a deeply disturbed person, don't make it your job to play the role of prosecuting attorney towards them, because it's not going to work. Figure out what your separate way of life would be, if possible. Get as far away from them as you can, because ultimately you deserve goodness and decency. And I'm hoping that as you stand in your own self-preservation, it can take you further and further down the path towards your own pursuit of peace.